breaking update. What we are learning, this is the US National Transportation Safety Body, the NTSB chairperson, who has now called the media reports on the Air India crash as premature and speculative. The NTSB, which has now issued a statement on the recent Air India crash, which has called media reports as premature and speculative, confirming that the release of the preliminary report by the AAIB and stressed that the investigation of this magnitude take time, also reiterating their commitment to the ongoing probe that they will continue to extend their support. Now, this development is coming at a time just last week, exactly a month after the Air India crash is now concerned. The preliminary report that was released on part of the AAIB has raised more questions and answers. And as far as certain Western media and Western interests are also concerned, they have already been quick to jump to conclusions. However, this is now coming across as a warning when it comes to recent media reports, according to the NTSB, which has now issued a statement calling the Air India 171 crash as premature and speculative reports. And India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, which is the AAIB, has just last week released its preliminary report. This is not the final or the conclusive report. That report will take still some more time as the investigations are still continuing. However, the NTSB is of the opinion that when it comes to incidents of this magnitude, probe and investigations take time, and we fully support the AAIB's public appeal, which was released, and will continue to support its ongoing investigation. All investigative questions should be addressed to the AAIB. We have Arunil with us right now. Arunil, good morning. Now, this is important on part of the NTSB as well, to give out as far as when it comes to the speculative reporting that is now being done by certain outlets in Western media and certain vested interest as well, which were quick to jump the gun.
Well, that is right, Amita. Good morning to you. Basically, this is a statement given by NTSB Chairwoman Jennifer Homendy. This is a US transport safety body, a very reputed organization. They making this kind of a statement becomes very significant. The reason for that is recently, particularly US media houses had published a report based on source-based information that they had gathered from US investigators who were there at the accident site or who were working in tandem with the AAIB. US investigators basically revealed this data. That's what the US media outlets were saying. And they pinned the blame on the pilot in command directly. Times now, or basically, it is extremely significant or extremely paramount to understand the aspect that the report from the AAIB was preliminary. A full detailed report is still awaiting. A proper investigation needs to be done, as well as Times Now is a channel which is not fearful of questioning the high-end, mighty or big organizations like the Air India, Boeing, or General Electric, which basically own the engine of this ill-fated aircraft as well. Yes. Directly pinning the blame on the pilots in this case was objected to or criticized by the pilots body from India or from the world as well. Now the statement from NTSB also becomes very significant because they are supporting the cause of the pilot body. Well, we have seen
already when it comes to the AAIB, as Arunil also continues to be with us, they have already called out to avoid any public media scrutiny as well, and to avoid any speculative reporting. This is the US National Transportation Safety Board. Let's put that as far as the chairperson there issuing a statement with regards to the Air India crash. And the statement goes on to say that recent media reports on the Air India 171 crash are premature and speculative, as India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, which is the AAIB, just released its preliminary report. The highlight should be on preliminary report. Investigations of this magnitude take time. This is not the final or the conclusive report, and we fully support the AAIB's public appeal, which was also released last Thursday, which had asked and to avoid any public scrutiny or to jump to any conclusions, and they will continue to support its ongoing investigation. All investigative questions should be addressed to the AAIB till the time that the investigations are over. However, there is no timeline that has now been said when it comes to the investigation, at what point in time it would be concluded. However, with regards to the AAIB investigation, the preliminary report that was released last week, exactly a month after the ill-fated Air India crash that claimed over 270 lives is now concerned. There has been certain, when it comes to media reports and articles that has been released on part of Western media and certain vested interests that have been quick to jump the gun and blaming the pilots as far as or human error is now concerned. When it comes to AAIB, that had also recently issued a statement where it had come out to say to avoid any speculative reporting or coming to any conclusion because the investigation is still not over yet. Now, according to the preliminary report that was released by the AAIB last week, there were 2 fuel control switches on board the Boeing 787 Dreamliner that were moved to the cutoff position moments after takeoff, cutting fuel to the engines. However, when it comes to both of the engines, that were restored within seconds. The aircraft, meanwhile, had already lost thrust. That apparently led to the crash. But this has now been also released on part of certain excerpts from the 2 pilots having their conversation, and based on those excerpts, it seems that when it comes to certain Western media outlets have been now penning their articles which have been quick to jump the gun and blaming the pilots mainly when it comes to human error or pilot suicide theories that have also been floated by certain Western media outlets. Now, as far as when it comes to the AAIB findings, the India Civil Aviation Regulator, which has also ordered inspections of the fuel control systems on all Boeing 737 and 787 aircrafts that have been operating in the country, aiming to rule out if there were any potential mechanical or electrical issues with the aircraft. However, this is the NTSB, which is a US board which has now come out to say that when it comes to the recent media reports on the Air India 171 crash that have been premature and speculative, and as far as India's AAIB that has released its preliminary report, investigations of this magnitude take times. That is why